How many of you know what electricity is?
We all learn at school.
And what is current?
Well, current is the flow of electron.
That's right. How fast do the electrons flow through a wire?
So electron is very slow, but we are thinking about series of electron. One is pushing, another is very fast.
Yeah.
So electron is very slow.
That's right. It's like a hose full of marbles. You push one in, instantaneously one is going out. So the effect of electricity is instantaneous. They actually travel somewhere, given the particular chemical composition of copper wire, roughly around 15 miles an hour is all, which isn't very fast. So, you know, for kids, when they get a bit older, you know, and when you're taught, because we'll be doing the way the class is, that you're not teaching everyone at the same time, but you're developing a relationship and talking with them about things. For somebody who is like pretty advanced in Standard 3, you might want to tell them things like that about how electricity works, and that's really pretty exciting.
This is great. By the project time, they get to choose what they're interested in. So they're interested in it, and we can work with them on that.
So really, we want to stimulate the children to achieve their potential, right? And if their potential goes way, way beyond where their age group is, no problem, just go there with them. And that should be the policy in everything. One of the things we really don't want to do is hold them back. I mean, basically, the education system is set up in a way, the worldwide, this is not criticism of any country's education system. Around the world, the education systems are set up to hold some children back. In other words, it's considered no good in a classroom for somebody to be too far ahead, because then they're a problem in the classroom. What do you do with them? So to some degree, they try and keep everybody around the average, which means some kids aren't going to be able to keep up because they'll be below average, but other kids will be held back. And it certainly makes it easier to teach that way, but it doesn't maximize human potential. And we really should consider in our school that what we are doing is creating an environment to maximize potential. Talking about the environment, did everybody go over to the school yesterday?
Yes.
So you see what is available. You think we can make that into a comfortable, successful learning environment for 45 children?
We have gone through that stage. I gone through with my kids. I learned from a small house, then school. They have gone through, and we have gone through as a parent. We have seen this one can be done.
See, with a house of that size, and that many rooms, it's not ideal, but I think it could be made into a really excellent and happy and successful learning environment. We just have to do what it takes to make it into that. But we really do always want to keep in mind that the real purpose of the school is to maximize the potential of the children in every area. You know, academically, socially, behaviorally, and very importantly, for Islam, spiritually. Because this is really what Islam is about, right? The maximization of human potential. That's what Allah instructs us to do, really, to maximize our potential. Anyone have any idea how many times in the Quran Allah tells us how important gaining knowledge is? How important it is to gain knowledge. Anybody know how many times Allah tells us that in the Quran? 30 times. Now, if Allah is going to tell us something in the Quran 30 times, it must mean He takes that very, very seriously. And in the Quran 33 times, Allah tells us how bad will be the consequences if we don't gain knowledge. And Allah is by no means saying, I will punish you for not gaining knowledge. He is saying, you will miss out by not gaining knowledge. As a matter of fact, some of the early scholars felt this seriously about it, that they said that they said that there's like, Allah has given us two books of revelation, the Quran and the physical universe, and that He expects us to read them both. And the scholars said that Allah expects us to read both those, and His creation is really what's taught in school, right? The knowledge of His creation. So all the things we call academic knowledge, they would be considered about Allah's creation. So the scholars said that those two books should be read in a balance, meaning equal importance given to both. And then what they said was, if you do not read those two books in a balance, read and understand those two books in a balance, that you will not understand the way of life that Allah has given us, and your practice of it will go badly. So teaching children academic knowledge is really part of their spiritual obligation. Because you can't fulfill the expression of your potential if you don't have both sides of the knowledge.
And also about better understanding, in the Quran is mentioned that you contemplate on Allah's creation. Think about Allah's creation, how Allah created things.
And I don't know how much of this you'll be able to tell the children, but next week, one of the talks I want to give you is about the creation of the universe. And I want to say how Allah did all the different parts and the order that He did them in. And it's really quite amazing to see how Allah did it. As I've said before, this is how it appears Allah has done it, and the probability is quite high that's how Allah did it. If He did it differently, then He did it differently. And however He did it is ultimately the right way. But it seems like we have a pretty good idea now how Allah did it. It's really quite amazing. Teach the children how people learn and show them simple examples. You remember when I was showing you how learning takes place at various levels. In a simple level, you start just as a blank page, and then things you learn, write messages in there. Very young children can understand that much. You know, like you'd say, I think to somebody in Standard 1, you could say to them, when you were born, did you know how to talk? And they say, no. Did you know how to count? No. Do you know how to read? No. But if you can do those things now, see, so you say, well, and you maybe draw on the board. See, this is like what was in your head in the beginning. It was just empty. But when you go through life, you have experiences, and they write messages in there. And then you learn all these different things. So you learn to talk, you learn to read, or you learn alphabet, you learn to count, and so you tell them how they learn. And also, it's important for children to understand. One of the reasons why this is very important, and we want all the children to understand this, that behavior that is rewarded tends to increase. We want them to understand this. The reason we want them to understand it is because we want them to not give attention to bad behavior in the classroom. This is something that really, I mean, it's possible we'll have so little bad behavior in the classroom that we won't have this problem. But when there is bad behavior in the classroom, usually the person who behaves badly gets a lot of attention from it. And some of the kind of things do, like say for instance, if somebody got out of their seat and the teacher wants them to go back to their seat and they don't want to go back to their seat, and if the teacher had to like chase them around the room to get them by the arm and take them back to their seat, the other kids might laugh and think that's funny. If the child who is being chased around the room, that child's going to feel very, very rewarded, you know, by all of his peers laughing and thinking that's funny. So they need to know not to reward wrong behavior. And I've taught this down to children down to 5 years old with success. Children can learn this. Like if you laugh after somebody does something wrong, it's not being nice to them, that's hurting them. Because second responsibility, we're supposed to help others. We don't want to help others do the wrong thing, we want to help others do the right thing. And people who get attention, and if people laugh after they do something wrong, then they'll think that's a good thing to do, and then they'll want to do it more often. So we need the children to understand that for the management of behavior in the classroom. We also want them to understand that this is a reason to say good things to people about nice things they do. Like if somebody's doing really well and learning a lot, or somebody's working really hard and trying, or if somebody's really kind, then the children in the school, in the classroom, should mention that to them, because that will help that increase. So those simple things about learning the children need to know. And number 7, provide many opportunities for the children to speak, to communicate publicly. I think, from what I've seen in classrooms in Malaysia and probably in Indonesia also, I don't see the children talking that much. Probably maybe more in Indonesia than Malaysia. But very often, the whole class is just, you sit there and be quiet the whole time and just listen. Well, I think this is not good for development, right? Children need to learn to communicate. I mean, this is one of the very important qualities and abilities that Allah has given human beings, to communicate with each other. And it's for children all through their life. The better communicators they are, the more successful they are likely to be. People who are good communicators can succeed in almost anything. I think everybody would realize this is a truism, right? That successful people generally can communicate very well. And sometimes there's very intelligent people who can't communicate, and they don't get nearly as many opportunities in life as those who can communicate well. So we really want to develop these children as good communicators. And one way to develop children as good communicators is to give them lots of opportunities to communicate in the classroom.
In the Indonesian classroom is more or less like courtroom. Only a few people talk. Then you are allowed to talk when you are required to talk. But that silence must be fully observed.
I mean, this is why here it is really hard to get children to ask a question. You know, when they get older, I mean, you have to sort of, you can't just walk into a classroom and the children don't know you and you don't have a relationship and ask them questions. Just nobody will answer. I mean, I used to resort to, I put everybody's name on a little piece of paper and put it in a jar, and I'd say, oh, okay, I'll ask a question. If anyone wants to answer it, you can answer. If nobody wants to answer, I'm going to pull a name out of the jar and you have to answer. And they will actually prefer to have the name pulled out of a jar than to volunteer an answer.
Children, I mean, here in a day school, they're scared of being wrong. this, they don't want to be laughed at, I think, or you know,
So
to
that,
giving wrong answers.
right.
Yeah.
No, and that's true. And knowing that, so what we want to do is create an environment where
It's okay.
there's no problem to be wrong, right? So one of the things the teacher should always do when a child gives a wrong answer, say, well, no, that's not the right answer, but it's really good that it was a really good try, and it's really good that you tried to answer it. And here is the answer. And if anyone ever sort of, another child were to act like, oh, you know, you're stupid because you didn't answer the question, you say to the other child, well, you know, you think they're dumb for not answering the question. How about you? You didn't even try to answer the question. They tried. That was, you know, I think that was really nice. I really like people to try. And then they'll see that the reward is for trying. And we want to be sure that children understand this, that the reward is for trying. There's more reward for trying than actually getting the right answer. It's nice if you get the right answer, but what's really important is that you try by answering questions.
But how to balance out? Because they are, I don't know, because the number is very small, right, in our school. There are these very few number of students who will actually answer, but try to ridicule back the teacher, and then as well as to sort of make it funny, and then the children will laugh, and then it is quite hard to actually immediately say, no, that's not funny, but still they're laughing out of it. How to balance out between the correct reward for the correct question, and then because and then later on there will be children asking questions, a lot of questions, because they will be rewarded with these laughters. So how to actually give good response to it, the correct response to this child who asks, you know, ridiculous question.
Oh, okay. If somebody asks ridiculous questions, because you will get this, if you are rewarding asking questions, then you'll get kids who want to act a bit silly, you know, and ask really silly questions. And I don't mind saying to them, to me, that sounds like a silly question, and I don't answer silly questions. The only kind of questions I like are really good, serious questions. So you just tell them what you like. With young children, right, you can be very direct about what you like. I went somewhere once with a parent and their daughter who was about 7 years old, and she liked a lot of attention, but she had obviously learned inappropriate tactics to get attention. And so while I was talking to her, she's trying some of these inappropriate tactics, you know, like she'd whine and things like this to get attention. And I said, I really like to talk to kids, but when kids whine and act like they're mad if they don't get attention, I said, then I don't like to talk to them so much. So I just like to talk to children who talk to me really nicely. I said, I really like that a lot. When you were talking to me nice, oh, that was a lot of fun. And for the whole day, she's just really nice with me. So you just say a simple thing. You tell the children where the reward is, and they'll do it. And they don't seem to take offense. I mean, to an adult, it would be hard to say that to them. But to a young child, they don't mind getting feedback on their behavior.
Yes.
And so you can be very direct, but very nice. So if you see a child doing something wrong, you just say what is wrong and why you think it is wrong and what you would like.
That is, the question is about when they ask a silly question, right? But what if when we ask them and they give a silly answer, so it's still
You say it's the same kind of thing.
Okay.
You said, oh, I can tell you're not really trying to answer the question. Say, I know when someone's just giving a silly answer. That was a silly answer. I don't like silly answers. You're just playing now. I don't want to play. I want to have a really good answer. Does anyone have a serious answer? And then if someone gives me a serious answer, I said, oh, thank you, that's just so nice. I really like serious answers like that. And so then, the child who did the silly answer, they'll probably never do it after that one time. You know, because they see the reward's not for that and where the reward is. So with the children, you be very direct with them about their wrong behaviors, and you can just come right out and tell them where the reward is. So, you know, I really like to, you know, talk to you when you do such and such. And that helps them learn about learning also. You're seeing how, if we can do all these things that we're talking about, how nice the learning environment will be for the teachers and for the kids. This next one is a very, very important one. Make sure the children do not say mean things to each other. I think there is almost nothing that can happen in school to make children like school less than people saying mean things to them when they're there. And also in Islam, so we need to get the children to really understand that see, we can even say to them, sometimes people think that it's fun or funny to say mean things to other people. We have to say, but this just isn't true. That in Islam, it is considered very, very important not to say mean things to other people, particularly other Muslims. And Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, really stressed this heavily. And not only to their face, but behind their back. And actually, Prophet Muhammad actually made talking about people badly behind their back equal to cannibalism. When he said something to the effect that those who talk badly about their brothers and sisters behind their back, it's like eating your brother's back, which is like a really terrible, terrible thing to do. And why is it so terrible? Because it destroys the unity and the good feeling of the Ummah. And this is the same thing it would do in a school. If children are saying mean things to each other, then there is not going to be a happiness in the school. It will not be a happy environment. And children, you know, they can be really cruel. They'll say to someone, and you have to watch out that little cliques don't develop. Clique meaning a small group that you know, excludes others. And they sometimes they'll say, we don't like you, so don't play with us, we don't like you. You know, I mean, you know, that kind of thing can be really crushing for a child to hear. And really very, very bad for their self-image and their positive development. So we want to stress very, very highly, no mean things, no bad things said about each other. Well, one time when I was doing this as an experimental school, we used to have weekly meetings where we would discuss anything anyone wanted to discuss, like if there were any problems. And actually, this was equivalent of Standard 2, so it was a very brave thing for this little girl to do. She was quite a chubby little girl, and she said to the group, she said, sometimes in class, when she was going to pick out which boys it was, I said, well, don't tell us which boys it is. Everyone will know which boys it is, and they will know too. But just say what happened, because we don't like to pick out, you know, people by name and say they did something wrong. She said when the boys walked by down the aisle by her seat, they make noises like a pig. They go point point, you know, like she is fat like a pig. And she said, it makes me feel so bad that at night when I go to bed, I cry when I think about it, and then in the morning I don't want to come back to school. Now, I mean, see, this was like a really honest thing to say, but I mean, this shows how harmful it is. So I said to the kids, because one of our rules was stated then, not the same rules now, but it was close. It was be good to others. So I said, you know, we have a values club in the school, and you're all members, and you've all said that you'll be good to others. If you're making somebody feel bad and they don't want to come to school, do you think that's being good to them? And they said, no. Everyone said no. I said, okay, so particularly whoever you boys are in here who were doing that to her. I said, you know, that you could hurt her whole life. I mean, so what if she doesn't like school, then she won't get a good education? Her whole life won't be as good as it could be just because you guys wanted to have a little bit of fun. And you thought that was fun to do. And it may have been fun for you, but do you think it's nice to have fun when it hurts someone else really bad? And they all say no. So I said, in the future, is everyone willing to never do that again? They said yes. And then after that, those several boys that used to make that noise, they used to be extra kind to that little girl. So by having these kind of very direct talks with the children sometimes, they can have a big impact on them. And also it can let them see how harmful words can be. This amazing incorrect thing that is said in English, sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Has anyone heard that? That is just so untrue. I think all of us probably, in our memories, would remember words that have hurt us much more than physical things that have hurt us. And the children need to understand this. And they need to understand how really important it is in Islam to be a good Muslim. A good Muslim just cannot be saying mean things to someone else. It's impossible to be a good Muslim and be saying mean things to someone else. And it's like a very, very harmful thing to do. So we need the children to get to have the feeling that that is something that's just really, they just would never consider doing. It's just so terrible. And also, going back a little bit here where it's actually in the future here. Teach children, the next one, teach children how to effectively command the right and forbid the wrong. Children seldom say something mean to somebody else when there's not others around. They usually do it when there's somebody else around. And so we want the children to understand if they ever hear somebody say something mean to somebody, that they should always really quickly show their support for the person who had the mean thing said to them and say to the one who said the mean thing, we don't like you to say things like that. It's not, we don't want anyone to say mean things to each other. So they should stand up for the person who has the mean thing said to them. But in teaching the children, so we'll move on to number 9. But remember, I mean, really critical we get this over to the kids, and we just don't allow this to happen. Because every school I've ever been in and every child I've talked to from schools I haven't been to says that people in their classes say mean things to each other. So it is really common among the kids here.
For them it's fun. For them it's fun to do so.
Yeah. But see, we can talk about, it doesn't matter whether it's fun. See, we say to them, do you think it is worth having some fun if somebody else is hurt by it? See, you know, fun should not be something that hurts someone else. If you feel joy and you are happy to make somebody else feel bad, you have something really wrong. You just have to get over that idea. That's really a terrible way to be. So we need the children to understand that. And then on number 9, which is teach children how to effectively command the right and forbid the wrong. And that comes from the Khalifah talk yesterday, right? The beautiful words and wisdom. So, and one of the things, one of the ways to make it easier to say to somebody, we don't like what you're doing. Like say for instance, if the children in class they hear one of their classmates say something mean to somebody. So the way to tell them not to do it isn't just to tell them not to do it, but maybe they start by saying, we really like you, but we don't like it when you say mean things to each other. See, so the child doesn't get the feeling that while somebody is commanding the right and forbidding the wrong, it can be done in a way that makes the child feel like they're not liked. So you don't want so then many things. You don't want the children to feel that, and also if you feel that the people saying something to you don't like you, then you don't feel the obligation to take their words as seriously. And if somebody starts out by saying to you, we really like you, but we don't like you to do this. Another example from my experimental program. In America, one of the big problems in schools is fights on the playground. Boys actually punching each other and then having fights. And so when I'd ask the kids, what do you think one of the worst problems on the playground is? They say the fights. I say, so do you think, would it be really nice if we could stop the fights? And they say, oh yeah. I say, okay, let's see how fights start. So I said, sometimes people, for whatever reason, they disagree with each other. And then when they disagree with each other, then maybe they say some mean things to each other. And then maybe the mean things get to, it gets loud, and then other people come around and they're standing there watching, and your friends might be saying, hit him, or even push you at each other, right? And then if everyone's standing around saying, hit him, and you really almost have to have a fight. So fights will just go on all the time. I said, but what do you think would happen if as soon as people start hearing somebody having an argument, everybody runs up like they normally do for a fight? But then everybody runs up and says, oh, come on, you guys, we like you both. We don't want you to fight. We'll never have a better world as long as people fight with each other. Then almost you can't fight, can you? And they say no. And so on the playground, that same day or the next day, two boys almost had a fight and everyone ran up and did that. That was the end of fights on the playground. Because everybody realized you can't have a fight with everybody standing there, all of your friends saying, we like you, please don't fight.
Can't sing anymore.
Just can't do it, you see?
The movie teach children how to do that. The movie teach children how to do that.
Well, not how to do the way I said, but how to start the fights, yeah.
Yeah, how to start the
Yeah,
fight.
sure. So we want to put opposite messages to those kind of things that the children will have learned into their mind. But these are really good examples of learning how to command the right and forbid the wrong successfully and positively. Because nobody felt bad, when there's 50 kids standing around saying, please don't fight, we like you both. You feel good. Here's 50 people saying we like you. So of course you're going to take their word and don't fight. So it's a very effective way to command the right and forbid the wrong. So we want to teach the children to do that. So one of the things that they need to understand is the power of the group. So if somebody's doing something wrong, and if only one child says, we don't like that, then that's one-on-one. That's sort of equal on either side. But if everyone in the class says, yes, we don't like that, then the side of goodness will always have much more power and will win. And then people won't want to do the wrong thing. So we will want a lot of children at the same time. And it can be also, like say for instance, if there was somebody who was, say for instance, while the teacher was talking, somebody is always interrupting and talking themselves while the teacher is talking. So the teacher could say to them, while I'm talking, well, you're talking too, but you know, you can't, you don't get to hear what I'm saying, and what I'm saying is important, it's very important you hear it. And not only you don't get to hear it, but other kids don't get to hear it. And then so that's just between the teacher and the child. But what if the teacher can say to the kids, because this is the way the children know it will be done, so the teacher says to the other children in the room, so do you like, say, you can name the person then, because everyone knows who we're talking about, say, do you like Ahmed to always be talking while I talk so you can't hear? And the children say, oh, no, we don't, right? So you haven't set up, so everyone knows that they are all supposed to tell Ahmed. You say, but then important, you say, but we all like Ahmed, don't we? And they say, yes. And Ahmed can be really nice, can't he? And they say, yes, right? So you get Ahmed to see, once again, where the reward is. You know, people like the nice things from him, but they don't like the wrong things from him. Actually, this gets also to the idea of, when you talk to children, how important it is to focus on it's the behavior that's bad, it's not them that is bad. You see? Yeah.
When I thought I had this my personal experience in class. Some kids, the parents have allowed them to always voice out their opinions on things. So they are, you know, maybe they are the only child. Their parents just listen to them and think everything they say is great. So when this child comes into a class, he does the same thing, regardless of what you say, what his friend says. It's like automatic on him to actually, when you say a line, you teach a line, he will have 10 lines to say, and he thinks that's cool. And you cannot really tell him off, you know, even in a good way. He doesn't, because he has been brought up that you must listen to what your child says. So how do we get him
but believe
not to
me,
interrupt the class?
the child will not be resistant to the teacher and the whole class asking him not to do it. There's virtually nobody can stand up to that. But it is very important that the whole, you know, that we instruct the class in a way so that the teacher and the class always speak for what is right together.
Disruptive, they always disrupt.
And you can just say to the child, you know, probably at home you get to do that and your parents don't mind. But in the classroom that's not okay to do. And so you don't get to do that here because it's not good for you and it's not good for the other students. And you say to the other students, you don't like it, do you? And they all say no. You say, would you like Ahmed to change? You know, and not do that? And you say, yes. You say, can you ask him, please, will you not do that? See, so with little kids, you can do that kind of thing. It will be very, very powerful. And you are going to have kids come in who have developed some behavior and speech patterns that are just not appropriate to a learning environment. And I mean, one of the things that I've noticed many parents do is let their children interrupt them.
Yeah, yes.
I personally don't let children interrupt. If a child comes up and persistently, at first I ignore them. If they persist, I say to them, I want to hear what you have to say, but I want to finish talking to the person first. So you wait until I'm done talking and then I'll talk with you. And, you know, and the children can learn that. Because usually they didn't learn it because nobody said that to them before. So if children get used to walking up to adults and the adults let them interrupt, they are being rewarded for interrupting behavior. So of course it will increase.
A lot of parents allow that.
A lot. I'm really surprised. I see it so often. And
the new parents, I think, the old parents like us, we are quite strict. We are, you know, we think that's not good.
I mean, honestly, I feel a little bit shocked when I'm talking to an adult and a child comes up and just breaks into the conversation and the adult immediately starts, you know, talking to me and talks to the child. I feel that is like shocking because it is like a very inappropriate in human communication to do that kind of thing. And you see, these are patterns that are developing for the child's life.
It's quite a lot.
And if you're an adult who does that, people are going to be very unhappy with you.
Even some parents like children to punch their friends.
Yeah.
Physical.
Difficult.
No, but it's like trending. It's like all the new parents now. They allow that. I think they love their child so much. Maybe they have a child or 2 children only, and they allow their child.
It has to do with this thing that I was saying the other day when I was talking about learning. Is parents feel they are being nice to their children by being permissive with them. They don't realize that they're harming their children by being permissive with them. But all the parents will learn that. Yep.
How do we tell a child who is defensive?
Is what?
Defensive.
So how are they defensive? I mean, I can't give a general answer without...
It's like one of the child make a wrongdoing, but maybe she doesn't want to accept that when we tell them that this is wrong, maybe she will say, no, I just whatever.
Okay. So there is a general tactic that I would suggest for this. One of the things I suggest is that, to both parents and teachers, don't argue with a child. So if the child has done something wrong, and you say to them, what you're doing is wrong, they want to argue it is right. I just say to them, look, I know what is right and wrong. What you did, it is not right. If you want to argue, then I don't want to talk to you. Believe anything you want, but I am sure you really know that that's wrong. So we just won't talk about it. And I hope you won't do that again.
Yes, Dad.
Yeah.
Because when you argue with children, they will come with maybe 10 arguments.
See, and if you allow someone to argue with you, it's possible they might think they win. Even if they don't win, they might think they win. Even the fact that you would be willing to argue with them seems to take a little bit away from how right you are.
But unfortunately, there are parents who will always say that, okay lah, it's
You're
right.
right. You're right.
It's what?
You're right. It's okay. You're right. Because they just want to
Stop.
just to stop them from arguing more and more.
Yeah, but this is like did I tell you about tantrum behavior? I didn't tell you yet about tantrum behavior? Okay. This is a variation of tantrum behavior, where a child acts in some wrong way, wants to get what they want, and the parent says not to, and the child refuses to accept the advice from the parent that that's wrong to do. So, an extreme the thing is, you know how I say any behavior that gets a reward will increase in the future? One of the things that we find rewarding is if there's something going on we don't like, and that thing stops, we like it. We feel rewarded by stopping something we don't like. So here is the unfortunate dynamic that occurs. This is how tantrums develop. Children don't start out having these yelling, screaming, fall on the floor tantrums. They don't start out at that. They start out little step, little step, little step, and get there. So what happens is the child demands something in a wrong way, and the parent says no. The child starts to just complain a little bit, and the parent gives in. So 2 things happen here. The child is rewarded for continuing to demand what they want, because they get what they want at the end of demanding. So the response of demanding what they want is rewarded. The parent is put in a situation while the child is demanding in a negative way what they want. That's not pleasant for the parent. So if the parent gives in, it stops this thing they don't like. So the parent is rewarded for giving in. And that's how tantrums developed. And they can get to be very bad. And so, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but occasionally you'll see it, like in public, somebody's child will have a real tantrum. An example might be, you go to Carrefour, and your child, as you're walking down the aisle, your child grabs some toy off the shelf and says, I want this. And you say, no, you can't have that. And then they say, yeah, I want it. And they say, no, no. And they just go like this, yes, I'm going to have it. And then you say, no, and you try to take it from them. And then they start to yell and scream, and it could get as bad, you know, they fall to the ground and they're screaming and going like this, and they're saying, I hate you, you're bad, mommy, you know, and everyone's watching and you feel terribly embarrassed and you just want to get out of the situation. So it seems like the obvious thing to do is give in, right? So people say, well, to me, what would I do? I said, well, in the first place, the way I would deal with my child, they would never ever get to the point where they would throw a tantrum like that. But if I had done the wrong thing and let my child get to the point where they would throw a tantrum like that, I would say, I would know that I have to finally fix it. And what I would do is because I'm a lot bigger and stronger than the child, I would just pick them up, and if there's a whole lot of people watching, I might say to them, sorry everybody, apparently I didn't raise my child right, and I'm going to take them out now because having that tantrum is no good. So I just pick the child up, carry them out to the car, and say to them, if you're going to act like that when we go shopping, you can't go shopping with me anymore for some period, fairly long period of time, you know, 2 weeks, a month, or whatever, and then stick to it. And then after the time period is up, I would say to the child, now, the time is up, now you can go shopping with me again. Are you really sure you're not going to have a tantrum? Because if you have a tantrum, I'll just bring you home again, you know. Because once I say to children I will do something, I really will do it. There was a boy once, at one of the schools we have a Khalifah lodge, and where the kids can come in. And there was a boy in there and he was acting really badly. And I said to him, you know, one of the rules in the Khalifah lodge, you have to act like Khalifa when you're in the Khalifah lodge. Those things you're doing, that's not right to do. And he just kept doing it. And I said, if you keep doing that, you'll have to leave. And he said, no. And I said, if you keep doing it, then if you refuse to leave, I will just pick you up and put you outside the door. And he kept doing it. So I just picked him up, I put him outside the door, locked the door, and he's standing out there looking really shocked. And I just wouldn't let him come in. Just went away and ignored him. Next day he came in, and he was very nice. And had no bad feeling toward me at all. And we got along, and as soon as he came in, I said hi to him very nicely, and he says hi to me very nicely, and we talked, and everything is fine. See, because he realized that there was a thing he cannot do. So once children realize there are things they just cannot get away with, they won't try them anymore.
Can we say, can we consider what the mom does to the children that the boy, for example, is a punishment?
Which one? To pick up the boy and take him?
Yeah, like the boy.
Yeah, and I mean, that's clearly a punishment, because what I am doing is, one of the two types of punishment is to take something from the child that they like. And the child likes to be there shopping with you. So I take that opportunity away from him because of bad behavior. If you are going to use punishment, by far the least harmful way to use punishment is by taking something the child likes rather than using harsh words or a hit. Harsh words and hitting causes really, really bad feelings. Taking something that they don't like when it's explained to them the circumstance, you know. So I say to them, I like you, I would say to the child, I really like you to come shopping with me, but I don't like to come shopping with you if you have a tantrum. So I just can't let you do that. If I let you do that, that would be harmful to you. So by you having the tantrum, that is you saying to me, you don't want to go shopping with me.
What if a situation in a class, you see, a tantrum goes after you, you know, you don't allow him to go through with what he's doing. Can you just, we cannot just lock out a boy from the classroom. He might just go around the school. Are we allowed to put him in the toilet or something? I've seen that.
Yeah, no, no.
How far can you go?
You could get in far too much trouble in a toilet. Well, no, what I would suggest is that there will always be some teachers who are not teaching. So you take the child to one of the teachers and say, well, you just keep an eye on this child. He was doing, you say what he was doing in the classroom. But sometimes what I will do if a child has a tantrum in a classroom, I'll just say to everybody, you know, I always use the name Ahmed. I'll say, look, Ahmed, Ahmed wants to have a tantrum now. I think he's acting silly. So let's all just ignore him. We'll just go on and have fun doing what we're doing. And just ignore him. Don't even look at him.
Yeah, but the kids, they just love looking at things like that.
Look, you need to understand that when you ask the children to do this, they will do it. You know, sure, they like to look, but when it is a thing that you have arranged with them, right, that we will all do the right thing, you know, then they won't do it. Sure, of course, everyone likes to look, unless there's like an agreement among the group that you won't look. Then the children won't look. And I mean, I've had, at one time, there were like 3 tables, and we were working at one table, and this child was down at the other, further than the 3rd table away, and just having this terrible tantrum because they didn't want to come to do this activity. So I just said, okay, look, if you want to lie there and scream, go ahead. I said, we'll just go have our fun. So we sit at the table there, and I make sure that it looks like extra fun, right? I say, well, wow, you know, I give lots of extra loud reward to the kids. I say, wow, you're doing such a good job. It's so nice the way you're sitting here and working on this, and then after a little while, you hear the noise stops. I see out of the corner, because I don't look down, I don't keep looking to see what he's doing. So then he sits at a chair at the 1st table. And I notice again, now he's at the chair at the 2nd table. And then he's back at the 3rd table. Because, you know, it's very hard for people to maintain these behaviors if they're not getting any reward for it. So 2 possibilities, right? If you can ignore it and get everyone else to successfully ignore it, it will probably go away. If you can't, you just take them out of the classroom and let another teacher watch them alone.
It's actually different places, different time. One to working in Malta, and then the other one here. It's very, not to say easy, but you can practice. Because you see, once the child has been taken away from this fun thing, but we have to make sure that the class is not something, you know, firm and then rigid. Something really fun that kind of indicate that he's missing out all this. So he will feel quite bad. Not long, you know, just like 5 minutes even. They will already keep quiet, and then just to make sure that it won't happen again, like the Roma always say, get the confirmation, get them to agree not to do that again. So immediately they will change.
And one of the things that I forgot to mention that I say to the child who's having the tantrum, I say, look, I think it's silly what you're doing, but if you want to do that, go ahead. But I said, but, you know, when you finish doing this silly thing, come on over and sit with the rest of us, because we really like you and we're going to have a lot of fun. You see, so you always tell the child that you like them. So that they know the person who is interacting with them and telling them what is wrong and even ignoring them is somebody who still likes them. Because if they have the feeling that you really hate them or something, then they can maintain the tantrum a lot longer. And once you go through a couple of these, then nobody bothers to do it anymore. See, the children really will only do the things that it's possible to get reward for. Once they realize there really is no reward available, they just can't get any reward for certain behavior, then that behavior just stops. And that's the way learning works. We don't do things if we don't get something for it.
Unless like I was teaching at one time standard 3, this new kid comes in. He's obviously very spoiled. He really disrupted. The rest of us have this, you know, we know each other, what I like you to do, what you like me to do, and we have this closeness. But once he comes in with his values and all that, he sees things. That's why he's moving from school to school every year. He goes to, you know, say from Al-Amin to Adni to Darul Hikmah. Because his parent thinks it's not the child that is wrong, it's the school system. So he has that in mind, that he can just tell his parents, I don't like this school. So his parents take him out and put him in another school. I think there's no end to it. And I think it was a very, very difficult experience. And then I thought I could handle. Most of the cases, sometimes the teachers take these kids to me because they think I could handle it. I find it very, very hard. Because his mindset is already there.
That's the thing I was saying, how much impact bad behavior or negative behavior can have on positive. I mean, it is. In the beginning, it's very hard to deal with that, except when I had my experimental school once, the children had a really free and easy relationship with me. You know, they call me by my first name. We joke with each other. I mean, it's just really, just like I was one of their friends. So this boy came into the school, and he saw how all the kids were treating me. So he thought, oh, I'm gonna sort of make show my place in the school really quick, right? So he said something really rude to me, and before I had a chance to say anything, about 4 or 5 kids to him said to him, don't be mean to him, he's our friend, he's always good to us. And wow, right then, I mean, that just stopped it for that child, and he wouldn't dare do it again. It just happened as a natural consequence. The impact of a group on the child is very, very strong. I mean, peer pressure is a hugely powerful tool. But very seldom is peer pressure used for positive, in a positive direction. Peer pressure is almost always a negative thing. But I mean, we probably, the way the school is, won't have very often, if ever, new kids coming in, except in the beginning of the year. But it is always a worry when somebody new comes into an environment. You get the environment set up in a certain way, and someone comes in and they're not used to that way, and they will disrupt very, very quickly.
And these kids, because negative is always fun, and these kids in the classroom tend to idolize him, you know. They thought he's funny, he's fun.
But that's the thing that wouldn't happen in our school, you see.
You know, all the values that you put in them slowly erodes, you know, because these guys...
But they only slowly erode. They only slowly erode because the way normal schools are, they just allow that to happen. They don't have a plan between the teacher and the kids to control that. See, in our school, we'll have a plan that everyone agrees with, and they will participate in, and they'll be highly rewarded for it. So it's just going to be very, very difficult for children to get away with that kind of behavior. I mean, any school can do that, it's just they don't use those techniques.